Now let's move to Iowa. Yeah. So, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, okay, so Brian Ferentz gets a weirdly worded contract. How do we do this? How do we do this? What do we even say about this? I did not think Brian Ferentz was going to be the offensive coordinator at Iowa next year. Done a lot of their games. I like Brian. I really like Kirk. You can't argue with what Kirk has done. Kirk Ferentz is, and a lot of Iowa fans don't like this, and I've seen some of the message boards, but like, he can't be above reproach. Well, he is. I'm sorry, but he is. So, I've never seen anything like this. This is crazy. I'm sorry. Like, this is, and by the way, I know Gary Barta. Gary Barta is really good. Really good. This is a wild situation born out of the fact that Brian Ferentz is Kirk's son. There's no other way that an offensive coordinator would, one, keep this position, and two, get these weird parameters thrown in the contract. Has to win 7 games and average 25 points per game for a contract extension beyond next season. So there's like an expiration date. So now Brian Ferentz is a jug of milk in the refrigerator. I don't know, like, what is happening? What is happening right now? I'm going to try my best to just kind of walk through this. Last year, Iowa was one of the worst offenses in all of college football. You see the numbers on your screen, those of you that are watching the show. 123rd in college football points per game at just over 17.5. Last in total yards per game, 251. 127th in rush yards per carry at 2.9. And 129th on third down. It was awful. And they were playing some of the best defense in the entire sport. So, like, if you are just competent on the offensive side, they're probably a division winner, almost certainly a division winner, and playing in a New Year's game. You know, like, they fell so far below expectations, which is why, like, listen, there is no other way to put it. I like everybody involved. And yet, there's no other way to slice it other than saying, like, Brian is still the offensive coordinator because he's the son of the head coach. There's no other coordinator keeps their job in this situation. And they certainly don't get these weird parameters put in there. Name one. I'll wait. It hasn't happened. So now what does this do? Okay, so let's actually project this out. Okay, like, what does this look like in practice? Well, that leads me to my very first point, and the one that actually got me, like, the most frustrated. Really good people involved. I like all these people, and yet this is really unfair to the players because this is all they're going to be asked about. It's really unfair to Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator, and Cade McNamara, who just transferred in, and Eric All, who just transferred in, right? Like, you can't do that to these players. This is all they're going to be asked about. Now, all of a sudden, what? It's their job to help Brian keep his job? Come on. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not okay. This is an offense that scored 17.5 points per game last year, and yet they benefited from a defense that scored more points than any other defense in college football. The defense alone for Iowa accounted for 20% of their total points last year. That's more than double the next closest team, 20%. So, like, really, the Iowa offense scored 14 points per game last year. 14 points per game. And you're asking them to now score 25? What if they don't? They're going to be asked about it. The broadcasters are going to talk about it. And more importantly, it's going to affect the way that they play the game. And this is the bigger point. Iowa has a very specific blueprint of how they go about winning football games. They win games with field position. They win games with defense. They win games with special teams. And they win games by not making mistakes on the offensive side. All right, yes. Was it not good enough? Of course it wasn't good enough. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden that Iowa should be, top 20? That's not the style of game that they want to play, nor should they play. So now let me pose a hypothetical question for you. It is 6 minutes to go in let's call it the third quarter, okay? Iowa's been okay offensively, but not great, okay? Not great. They're getting a few third downs here and there. More importantly, they're getting like a couple first downs per possession. So they're really creating like 4 minutes time of possession per series. They're up 17-3. There's 4 minutes to go now in the third quarter. They've got the ball on their own 40-yard line. The opposing offense has done exactly nothing all day long. The only way they got into field goal range was they got one long pass and then didn't do anything and kicked a long field goal. It's clear to everybody in the building, everybody watching the game, that the opposing offense is not going to drive the field on Iowa. There's 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. It's 17-3. What plays are you calling if you're Brian Ferentz? So again, how is this fair to anybody? It's not fair to him. Now he's got to call plays to go score. Guys are going to be trying to make plays that create scoring plays, which lead to putting the ball in precarious spots, which leads to turnovers, which leads to a potential blown lead when the defense is clearly not going to give up more than 6 points that day, in particular if you give the opposing offense long fields. So again, what are we doing? So he's going to fall short of the 25 points per game moniker there, but you're going to win the game 17-3. Isn't the point to win the game? It's not. They've got to change this. Listen, Iowa, I kind of understand why you did this. Excuse me. But the bottom line is that this needs to be removed from the contract immediately, or you need to move on and find a new offensive coordinator. And I don't think you're going to do that. So I think that this is a bad situation. There's been a lot of jokes and everyone's like, oh, how's this going to work? But again, I go down to the practice of actually playing those games, being the quarterback, being the running back, being the tight end. I don't love it. Getting to 7 wins. What happens if they score 30 points per game, but the defense isn't quite as good? Well, now is it Phil Parker's fault that Brian Ferentz loses his job? Come on. We can't do that. We can't do that. And quite frankly, I don't think that this puts anybody in the best position to succeed, and they need to rethink this. Kirk is a smart guy. Gary Barta is a smart guy. Brian is a smart guy. They need to get in a room and either move on or remove this and move forward. Because that's the only way to go.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.